Good morning, happy Saturday, a rare Saturday stream. The reason for that being that I've had internet troubles all week. I've just had a new service provider set things up, so I moved one of the streams to today. We're going to be beating up some robots in some shape or form. And also, I will be back later today, kind of early evening my time, to play some of your Game Maker's Toolkit jam games, which is great. I've seen various people in our Indie Game Clinic Discord working on their jam games when the jam was on, and there was a fair few of you, so we thought, yeah, let's just put them all together and do a little stream. So I'm going to do that later on today after a break as well. But yeah, welcome to Indies Under the Knife if you haven't been before. The channel Indie Game Clinic is does a bunch of different stuff. I do video essays about game design. I do my own devlogs. There are a couple of podcasts we do. One More Run is a podcast about roguelikes and run-based games where we play a different game every month. We've got the Game Developers Library, which is a podcast about books about games and game design. This is called Next Level by Mike Cook. It's a book about procedural generation in games, the history of procedural generation. This is the one I'm just finishing off for the next episode. It's a fantastic book. I'm not sure if you'd learn loads from it if you already know about the technical side of this stuff, but the way it overlaps kind of explaining the practical side with like the history and giving specific games that use different methods is great. So that's all the stuff we do. But Indies Under the Knife is a regular stream where I take games that are works in progress that you guys are making and play them on stream. I know lots of game dev YouTubers do that, but it is really kind of the main thing that this channel is about, and it kind of why the channel was set up. I'd been working as a game designer for a few years, and I thought, oh, maybe I could use YouTube to do some consulting, and then I found out that just kind of doing the consulting live on a stream benefited more people than doing it privately. So today we've got 3 games sent in that are not necessarily the same genre of game. I picked them by theme this time. And the way things work at the moment is one of our patrons will send a game, and that's on our private Discord. There's a separate form for that on the playtesting channel. And we've received Echo Extract, which I've played a couple of times before. I'm always happy to see this game. It's quite fun. It's kind of like, you know, like a open area beat 'em up, like a Dynasty Warriors type game with this kind of neon punk aesthetic. And it's got some kind of extraction game systems in it, which I think the dev is still kind of working with and around. I think with these sorts of games, you always want to get the action, the core action, like really good, and don't be too locked into what the meta of that game is, because you can very easily go, oh, it's a roguelike or it's an extraction game, and then later on find out, oh, actually, this game works better with a different structure. So I know the developer has been thinking a little bit about that. So even though it's got extract in the title, there might be some pivoting happening there. So the way things work is I look at the game that's been submitted by a patron who's kind of, you know, effectively funding and subsidizing this stream to happen. And then I pick some games to go with it. And today, after we've checked out Echo Extract, we're going to have a game called MegaBattle, which is a, it says it's a deck builder. We'll see how it's not. This keeps trying to tell me to download Steam. Sci-fi roguelike deck builder card battler. Lots of things I like, often feel a little bit skeptical of because there's been so many kind of fast follows in the last few years. But I do see something that I like here immediately, which is a basic looking deck of starting cards. And that might not sound like a strange thing to be excited by, but for me, like, the immediate alarm bells that I often get from people's deck builders is when the starting deck is just every card is a different card, because it shows that you don't really understand the genre or how it works, or the fact that, you know, building a deck is only exciting if you start off with a boring deck that you want to change in some way. So even just seeing this screen kind of alleviates some worries I have whenever I see a new deck builder, because it kind of already puts this game in the top 25% of you know, people understanding the genre that they're working in, which there's a lot of people that don't seem to. And that's not to say you can't make a deck builder where every card that you start off with is different, but you do lose some of the benefits of just how the genre generally works. It's one of those kind of if it ain't broke, don't fix it kind of rules of how the genre works. And you can break those rules, but you need to understand why they're there in the first place and not just do it because you wanted more variety or you thought it was cool. And then Bending Boy Games has sent in Hope. This is like the first, they sent a message saying this is like the first, this is a solo developed project. It's the first game they've finished. Looks fantastic. We're doing kind of dystopian zombie Resident Evil looking stuff in a side-scrolling kind of reminds me of the old Flashback and Another World type games. They've called it an extraction shooter, which is very interesting, sort of survival horror, sci-fi kind of thing. Let's see how that plays out. I'm always interested when people use a side view and try and do horror themed things because I'm not sure. I think it can work from like an art perspective, but it becomes one of those things where the horror is more of a theme, like an art theme or a setting or a mood, rather than like genuinely scary because we're looking at things from an angle that doesn't like make us empathize with the character. So, yeah, let's boot up Echo Extract, see where that's at. I think last time I played this, I played it for a little while and I managed to actually, oh, we're not opening the crash handler, we're opening the app. Managed to get to a point where I was able to like build a base, which was one of the things that the devs started building in this. Thank you so much, Andy. Thanks for the tip. Legend. Controller recommended. I'm glad you're finding it helpful as well. Yeah. I mean, there are so many game dev channels. They're all aimed at different people. I appreciate it when people appreciate what I do, but also there are some people that just find it like way too critical or negative, and I understand that, but ultimately you kind of have to understand whether you're doing something as a hobby and you want to get a pat on the back for your effort, or whether you're doing something because you genuinely want to get better. You know, I had someone comment on a video the other day saying, why does this assume everyone wants to make a product? And I was like, well, it's called Indie Game Clinic because indie games are like finished commercial products. If you're just doing something as a hobby, you're not really doing indie game development, you're doing hobby game development. And if you're putting out hobby projects and just like throwing them out into the ether, those are your hobby projects, and that's totally fine. And I strongly recommend everyone start as a hobbyist before they start thinking, oh, I need to like finish and release these games. But people get very annoyed when I hold people to high standards, and it's like, but you said you were making an indie game, you said this was like a commercial project. Yeah, nothing but praise is worse than a complete teardown. Yeah. I think the middle ground is like trying to find where people are at, because sometimes people will tell you something that's wrong with your game that you're just not capable of doing anything about, you know? And sometimes that's helpful. If it's basically like you've bitten off more than you can chew, you're making the wrong game for you, you know, the game that you're making requires so many skills that you don't have, then that can be helpful, because basically then the feedback is telling you you need to make a different sort of game. But if the game that you're working on is kind of okay and you just need to change a few things, then it's better to focus on those things than to like be like kind of throw it out and start something else. Echo Extract is a difficult, combo-focused action game. You will not be able to just button mash your way to victory. You will die, you will lose all your loot, have a rad time. I like that. I think, Dev, if you're watching this, a way that you could emphasize the kind of tone of this is have some sort of tutorial character as an avatar that's a little bit kind of maniacal. You know, like a little kind of grinning robot that's got a kind of clownish, trollish quality to it could be quite helpful for this kind of messaging. Yeah, it's hard to tell when people are just telling you they don't like the sort of thing you're making, you know. I find that a lot when people say that there's too many of something, when they go, oh, there's too many of this type of game. Okay, it just said that button was dodge, but it doesn't seem to be doing a thing. Toggle sprint that way. Yeah, people will say, oh, there's too many of this type of game or whatever. And then it's like, well, they never actually liked that type of game. My dodge button isn't doing anything. don't know why I can't make the first jump. I don't know if we have the dev in today. I'm going to ping them in the Discord because I can't seem to get the dodge to jump. Let me... Okay, it's bound to the right button. I'm glad... It's doing an error sound. It's going when I press dodge. Which is bad. So what I'm going to do, instead of faff around with this for a while, I'm going to play the other two games. I'm going to ping the dev on the Discord and say, hey, I've had this issue where the dodge button doesn't work. And we're going to get on with the other two games because I want to make sure that they get their game streamed. But I also don't want to spend a lot of time trying to get out of a weird QA situation. Just going on the... Yeah, dev's got a... So we have a system on the Discord where people that are using it quite a lot have channels for their games, or like long-running forum threads. I'm doing the stream now, but the dodge button in the opening tutorial just throws an error bleep kind of sound. I've tried unbinding and rebinding it in the menu, but it doesn't work. I'll play the other two games and circle back to it in an hour. Let me know if there's anything I might be able to do to fix it on my end. Okay, thanks for your patience, folks watching right now. Yeah, that's a shame, but we'll come back to it later in the stream if it works. And I've got a Xbox controller. I did try other buttons, but yeah, I mean, I rebound it and it still had that kind of right-hand side face button, so I'll try it again later, anyway. It could be one of those things where if the dev has time to check in the next hour or so, they'll realize that they uploaded a build with a problem in. So I don't want to spend too long trying to solve it from the this end. It's very easy to do that kind of stuff. You upload a build and you've tested everything apart from what happens in the first 5 seconds. Hold A or D to move, hold shift to sprint, W to jump, S to crouch. So this is Hope Zero. This is going to get a bit gory if anyone's concerned about that sort of stuff. I'm just going to shrink the screen down a little bit so we don't lose the right-hand side, because I think that's going to be where the oogly booglies are going to come in from. Oogly boogly is a technical term for combatants, particularly combatants that have some sort of grotesque quality to them. So that can enter your game design vocabulary today. Be wary of the oogly booglies. W to jump, S to crouch. Okay, ALD. Can we do have controller? Okay, yeah, I'm going to use the controller for this because it looks like a console game, and that's just how my brain works. B to sprint, A to jump. Okay. I feel like there's sideways. So I'm just immediate feel of the character. We've got a walk. We've got a sprint. The speed difference between the walk and the sprint doesn't feel massive. And maybe that will help with the horror, but it does make the running feel a little bit underwhelming. The jump is quite small, which tends to happen sometimes when we've got like, we're trying to do like a realistic environment as setting with a platformer character. The jump does feel kind of small, so I wonder what that's going to be for. And the character kind of turning 3/4 in the jump feels a little bit strange, because it feels like they're kind of posing and turning to look to us. But the general kind of art and animations are quite nice. And like I said, this is someone's first game that they've actually got to this point where they feel like it's finished. How grotesque a combatant you are. I've been watching the remake of the very gay remake of Interview with a Vampire, and Charles, how grotesque a combatant you are was a very kind of Interview with a Vampire kind of phrase. Hold the left trigger while holding the right joystick in a direction to pull out the knife. Okay, so we've got hold left trigger to pull out a knife, and then that feels reasonably intuitive. That's good. Okay, and we can smash through that. That feels like it could have done with some particles and stuff coming off it to make the breaking of that glass feel a little bit more obvious what was happening and kind of satisfying. Double tap B to dodge roll. Use it to avoid danger. Okay. That makes sense. I mean, that's on the button it should be. That's the button where we think it's going to be in most games. Yeah, she is giving kind of Jessie from Control vibes. You granted a leg injury from a trap. Yeah, you gained a leg injury from a trap. You cannot sprint or dodge. Open the medical box. There's a really great, I think... I don't know if the dev here is like really committed to pixels all being the same size, but if they're not, they're very well handled, you know? Like, I'm not a super big pixel art purist. My own games never really stick to one size of pixels, but I think if you want to be messing around with pixel sizes, you need to make the differences so small that people don't notice too much. Lootable items sparkle on the floor. Press that button. Okay. Press RB or LB to loot. I see, okay. We're going to do some inventory Tetris type stuff. Open my inventory again. Hover the yellow cursor. Press and hold A to use it. This is a good interface. We're doing a bunch of stuff to like slow the game down, like make her take time to heal, and stuff that would normally be annoying, but it makes sense in a survival horror game. I think my immediate concern when I see a game like this is how do we make an area feel varied when, you know, the natural kind of everything happens on one plane and it's in a corridor thing really limits the approaches you can take, especially when we're not a character that can like leap around and do Metroidvania stuff. So a game that I thought handled this very well, that stealth game that we've had a couple of times. I'm so sorry. It's one of our Discord members. I can't remember the name of it. Side view stealth game that's a bit like Mark of the Ninja, where you're a burglar breaking into buildings and you go into doors and like go up floors and stuff. And there's lots of like hiding in a door and then opening it at the right time. That works quite well in this perspective. But when you're doing like a realistic kind of setting with a character that's not leaping around all the place and then a kind of side-scrolling platformer perspective, you do have to have ways to make the game feel varied in terms of how you approach situations, and that can be a big challenge. It's going to be interesting to see how that's handled here. So a lot of what I'm doing here, I'm not just saying this stuff to be like negative or skeptical. What I'm doing is trying to like give you a sense of what I imagine a player is going to come into this game thinking. Because when people play when people do a playtest for you or they play a demo, especially if they're a fan of your genre, they're going to come in with a set of like skepticisms or about your game, and your job in the first half an hour is to make them go, actually, no, I know what I'm doing, you know? So I see all of the art and animation in this, and I think, yeah, the dev knows what they're doing in that department, but I haven't yet had something to make me think, oh yeah, this is how the game is gonna, you know, have different approaches or something. It could just be that once we get into like stabbing guys with this knife, that's enough. But it does raise some questions for me about that's an injury kit. It does raise some questions for me about what it's going to be like once we start to get out of the tutorial and into the main game. And is it very much just a case of like, this corridor is the only place you can go right now, and there's gonna be like an experience that's the same for everyone else and is very much on rails, which. Find the Mediplast, look for the sparkles. Okay. We're tutorializing the inventory quite a few times. Put it in a quick slot. Okay, cool. Pick it up. And place it on the quick slot. And then that becomes my down arrow, I guess. Is that what it is? Okay, cool. I think the controller mapping is very good. I always think if you're making a game that feels like it's native to consoles, that you should develop it with the controller, even if it's not your preferred thing. Okay, we've got some... I think what's happening so far is they're tutorializing the part of the game that they know is the hardest for people to operate, right? Which makes sense, because I can see how all of this stuff, like doing all this inventory management with a very specific interface that people haven't used before, doing with the controller, all of that is stuff that people need to learn. I'm not sure that going through 3 or 4 rooms and picking up an object and putting it in different parts of the inventory is a compelling way to start your game, though. So, although I think the game needs this in some shape or form, I think it might not be the right way to open the game, because the time it's taking us to get to the exciting element of the game is too long. And because most of what I'm interacting with is the inventory, which, you know, is an abstraction. It's not part of the fantasy of the world. It's a really important game system, but it doesn't, like, immerse us or anything. I would really, really consider making sure we start off doing some scary stuff with just like some panic fighting with the knife or something before we get to any of this. Pick up and place the rotor slug into a weapon slot on the right. Right to loot. That's okay, so yeah, we need some little on rails combat things between these things. It's a great tutorial though. It's really, really well done. I think there's a few places in this game where you need to think about the point of impact of an effect in the game world, because here when we shoot those things, we're going to reload. She doesn't have a reload animation either. When we shoot those targets, they do go in, but you would expect them to like flash or have something depending on what suits the style of the game. And that's kind of similar to when we had the breaking the glass earlier and there was no glass came out. It had a sound effect. The thing we interacted with visually changed, but it was a missed opportunity to have some sort of VFX, some sort of particles, some sort of juiciness. And I know that juice is often associated with like more bombastic action games where you're supposed to feel cool, and it might not be an obvious choice for horror. But I was talking about this with someone yesterday when someone was saying, like, how do you make combat like animations and feel good in a horror game? And I was referring to Resident Evil 2, the remake, because if you've played that, the way that James fights in Resi 2, the way that the enemies are kind of defeated is still kind of like crunchy and satisfying and makes you feel powerful, right? There's like sound effects, there's gore, the way that the enemies go down makes you feel like you're doing something satisfying. So it still has that kind of I'm squashing bugs quality. But the way that James is animated, he doesn't look heroic, right? The way that James fights in Resi 2 is he looks like a man who's like out of control, who's fighting because he's scared, fighting like someone in a street fight, not fighting like a martial artist or a military man. And these things are all really important depending on like the genre of what you're doing, and defeating enemies needs to feel satisfying whatever you do. So there needs to be like some indication that things are getting hit, whether it's an enemy or a piece of glass or a target, and whether it's appropriate in your game for things to like flash when they take damage, or whether they need like blood VFX, like the enemy maybe needs to flinch, maybe there's some programmatic animation to just like push things back and give them a tiny bit of knockback. You need all of those things to show that the player, like their force projection into the game world and their ability to hit things is kind of being rewarded, because all of those things emotionally teach you what is happening. And I know I talk about this all the time on the channel, but players can understand your game on an intellectual level, and they understand the rules of the game, and they understand that when I do this, this happens. But all of those bits that we consider juice, those kind of VFX feedback things and sound effects and all of those impact things, they're the things that emotionally teach you how to play the game and like make you care about what's going on. So if you imagine like an action horror game versus like a heroic action game, the difference between those things might be how the character looks. You know, in a survival horror game, our character is often just a regular person, and how they're animated when they fight. And in a survival horror game, our characters should look scared, or they should look like they don't know how to fight and they're fighting in a desperate way. But regardless of whether it's an action horror game or like Vampire Survivors or something, the impact of your attacks on the enemies still needs to be telegraphed and to feel kind of satisfying, because you're doing something that the game wants you to do. And whenever the player is doing something that they're supposed to do in the game, we want to do something to like emotionally teach them that, yeah, you're doing the right thing right now. And there are like loads of different steps of that. And if you think of it in terms of combat, it's like, okay, when an enemy dies, we want something that feels like a celebration. And in a very grimdark game, that might be like the character is cut in half and part of their body slides down or whatever. That's like a little mini celebration for the player to go, yeah, you did it. But you also want the steps along the way of like when you're hitting them and there's some kind of shake or knockback or there's some sort of VFX. And I feel like that's an area where this game is going to be a little bit lacking, because we focused on like all of the elements of the game that like are depicting something, like the animation of the character, the world is very, very beautiful, but I think some of the little visual elements that really tell you what's happening in moment to moment in terms of the game mechanics are where we're going to see like a gap in the game. And because I've seen that a few times. Hitting the target didn't really feel like, you know, the sprite changes, that's great, that's a state change in the sprite, but the moment where it happened is like a point where we can set off a little emotional firework for the player, and it wasn't there. So let's keep going. Press down the right joystick to swap your utility for the flash. So I've got my knife on the bottom right there, and I can swap it for my flashlight. And now when I hold left trigger and the right, so now when I do my knife action from before, I've got a torch instead of my knife now. That creates a nice little panic switch where I can't use my knife in the dark, and I need to switch between the torch and the... I can't use my torch and my knife at the same point, and I might have to do some difficult switches, which I'm fine with. You know, having a bit of clunk is a survival horror standard, really. We've got a weird underground mushroomy thing. I can go through there. That's too dark. We can't see that that's a... You know, we're in a dark room. The exit maybe needs to be light rather than more dark. Look, maybe that doorway could be like you can see something lit up further down it, so it gives the illusion that the space we're walking between levels is like a long tunnel with a little hole at the end. But yeah, that's not clear enough. Loot both the fabric on the ground, drag one over the other, and hold to stack. Okay, again, too much inventory tutorial before anything exciting happens. Public fabric. Like, this is okay. You're showing me a UX thing of like, I can pick up two things and bundle them together. I get it. I get why we need to do this. I don't think we need to do it here yet, you know? We've got a fabricator. Okay, this is like the, you know, we're doing a prey thing where we can hover over fabrics, hold A to store them. Okay, cool. Ah, I see. Ah, okay. I press hold A to store. So I'm putting the fabric I've got, I'm putting in the fabricator. So this is our kind of sci-fi. This is one of those reasons why doing like a slightly far future sci-fi setting is better than doing exactly now, because you can do stuff like have a machine that fabricates things out of blocks of matter or whatever. Blue dots indicate unscanned items. Pick up the rotor stug and move it over the scanner. Okay. Is that what that is? What's the rotor... oh, it's my gun. Okay. I would call it a pixel for the purpose of the tutorial. Pick up your pistol, and then... it's great that your pistols have in-world names, but in the tutorial you can just call it your pistol. Scanned items can be printed again with enough fabrics. Okay, cool. Again, you're telling me about stuff I could do later. Like, if you've played Prey, which is one of my favourite games, because I'm an a big ImSim lover, but I'm also, you know, I've become a bit more of a casual gamer in my older age, so games like Dishonored and Prey are my absolute catnip because they give me the ImSim thing in a much more simplified form. But if you play Prey, the length of time it takes you to get one of these fabricators is actually quite long. We focus on setting up the experiences in terms of like its exciting emotional qualities before we start getting into all of this kind of strategic inventory management crafting stuff. You missed the monorail extract. It will be back every 10 minutes. Find a different extract. Or I could just wait here for 10 minutes. That would be a good stream. Alec Webb said, our game turns ghost goo into paint. Into ghost killing paintballs. We're using Ghostbuster vacuum thing. Yeah, that's great. That's like the Alec, I don't know if you've seen the story stack. It's in Jesse Shell's book, but it's not from Jesse Shell. It's something he took from someone else. But it's this idea of like which elements in your story are the most flexible. And what you've just described there is a great example of designing the game economy, like designing the game economy around the needs of the game, because it's like, okay, we need a way to make paint. What's a cool way to make paint? Oh, you can make it out of the ghosts, right? Whereas if you predetermine too much stuff about the game world before you've worked out the gameplay, you can't do that because you've already locked some things in place, and people will be like, you can't make paint out of ghosts. Oh, we've got some... We got some blobs. Here we go. I'm not sure how a map would work, because it feels a bit like we're not sure whether we're supposed to be rotating when we go through some of these doors. She's holding a hastily written blood-stained letter. Find Hab 01. Another thing I would advise doing here is when the text boxes are pure tutorial, have a separate color, and then when it's like more of a clue or puzzle thing, have a different color, because that little switch will kind of help refresh people's attention. And it's less important that you stick to the same category, and it's more that if this panel changes, and sometimes it's green and sometimes it's red and sometimes it's blue, it will just make people pay more attention to it. Whereas at this stage, because we've done so much tutorial and not much action, starting to get fatigued with reading the panel. She's holding a hastily written blood-stained letter. Find Habbo 1, it looks like. Find Habbo Hotel. Non-monorail extracts are conditional. Find and loot the fabric and extract. Okay, this is where we get into the extraction thing. That's public fabric is a cube of fabrication for everyday use. Okay, so we've got that. These were quickly nicknamed fabrics or bricks. Okay, so I'm guessing the reason it's called a public fabric is because it's like the most common type of fabric you can make stuff out of. Maybe there's some kind of loot rarity color thing going on because that's green, I'm not sure. Okay, we're going to put fabric in. You can load ammo into your gun by dragging the correct ammo over it. Okay, we're going into an area now. Are you a friend? You are. It's a psyker. Someone drew a face on it. Probably shouldn't leave anything on the ground I don't want eaten. But if I wanted something recycled into fabrics, I could feed it directly. Drag items over it to recycle. Okay, cool. Okay. We've got a fabricator. Let's build something. I can only build the gun I've already got. That's no fun. I can get armor. I just 3D printed some armor. Okay. Reasonably intuitive. Find Hab 01. That's a mission that we can do, is it? Yeah, I see how this game ended up being the way it is, because we've got this extraction structure where we go into levels and, you know, we do what we can and get back out. And a lot of that is going to be based around looting and inventory management. So we needed all of that tutorial. But I think we might need a slightly elongated tutorial that includes more combat, just to break it up a little bit. Because I think the fact it's an extraction game is almost secondary to the fact that it's an action horror game, and people are going to care more about that thing. The people who like this game are going to care about, look at this game, look how cool it looks. I get to be scared and fight things off with my knife, you know, in this kind of scary but cute pixel art world. And the extraction structure sounds like it could be quite cool, and I understand why an extraction game needs a big emphasis on loot and inventories, but it's just not an exciting way to start a game. I don't think there is a big plot apart from we're in this messed up place and we need to go and you know, find the good stuff in it and kill the bad stuff, which is fine. I mean, that works for me. I'm quite happy for that to be background information. But yeah, we're just, in terms of like the in-game activity and action, I think we need a little bit more kind of scary, exciting stuff happening as part of the tutorial before we get into this structure. And I think actually, Dev, if you're watching this, if you come across this video later on and you're watching it later, watch our episode of One More Run on the game Voidigo, because I think Voidigo does some of the things that you're trying to do here. And it's not an extraction game, it's a boss hunting game, but it has a similar thing where it's kind of a game that's like a single player game, it's non-linear, and it's kind of episodic, where it's like, oh, I'm gonna go on a run and I'm gonna do this stuff and then I go back to my base. There might be some things you can take from that game or our observations of that game. Hey, Paul. We're doing a side-scrolling extraction horror at the moment. Alex said, speaking of audience expectations, how do you feel about extremely arcade mechanics in a third-person shooter? The overlap of indie and third-person scares me. I don't know. I think the way I think about these things is anything can work if you do it well. It's just some things are more difficult to do well. And then whether or not, you know, some things are globally more difficult to do well. And then some things are more or less difficult to do well based on who you are and what your skill set is. Okay, we've got some kimchi. I want to get at least one extraction run done on this before we move on to the next game, but it has been a while already because we had... Right, pick that up, put the shells in there. Military fabric, so that's for making stuff. Put that magazine in there. Painkillers, don't need them yet, we're alright for health. Oh, we've still got another item on the floor. Mini rounds. There's something else on the floor, okay. I will never give you a yes or no answer. Even those of you I know well. I think what you need to acknowledge is when you say, oh, I'm worried about this element of my game. You know, I'm worried about how this goes with this. That's a good thing to acknowledge and to understand, you know. And I think if you recognize it, that sometimes like the biggest threats are also the biggest opportunities. So the thing that you're worried about in the game is the thing that's the unique selling point. And the fact that you're worried about it is helpful information because it tells you that this is the element of the game that potentially has the most reward attached to it, right? Because it's the most unusual thing and it's the thing that will stand out. But also that's your brain drawing attention to the fact that you need to get that bit of the game right. And it's very easy for then to fall back onto this idea of, can it be done? And it's like, well, the answer of can it be done is to do with you. It's not out there. It's not out there in the wild. There's lots of things that can be done that no one's done. There's lots of things that have been done that didn't work that could be done better by someone else. But that bit of your brain that's going, oh, I'm not sure if this thing can work, that might be true, but then you have to just think about the risk reward you're doing. Because if the thing that you're trying to do in your game that's innovative is something that's not particularly exciting, right? Like, I want to come up with a new way of doing weapon degradation or something like that, then you've got a problem. But if you feel like the thing you're trying to do is potentially exciting, it's just difficult, then it might be more worth the time and effort. These barrels are saying they've got something. Maybe I can beat the barrels up. I don't know. They've got an arrow on them, but it doesn't seem to do anything. That's a good place to be, Paul. I mean, it's annoying, but also, like, ideas come back around. I made, back in, like, 2015, I made an interactive fiction that I was quite proud of, and, like, quite a few people played it. Like a Twine game that I made. And most of the stuff in it was based on, like, a script for a comic I wrote 10 years before that. You know, ideas come back around. We come back to things we tried to execute before and we do them again. I've had the same thing with songs. Like, write a song, I kind of like the song, I don't like my execution of it. I re-record it 2 years later and I have some new skills and it's like, oh yeah, this is the thing that I had in my head that I couldn't really get out properly, you know? So I think the thing that you really just have to... we all have to kind of throw away projects at some point, and if you never do it, then it's probably a sign that you're, like, overestimating how good your stuff is. Some people are very lucky like that, or they just, you know, very selective about what they do. But, it's never wasted effort. I think the situations you need to watch out for is when you have... when you are the sort of person... Rob Bobbin... who is constantly making, like, small games where people are like, this is really good, take my money, and then you don't finish them, and you, like, stop working on them even though other people were excited about them and thought they were cool. Charles is getting attacked by a skunk. No way. I'm not sure about these little UFOs. I feel a little bit... Oh my god. Oh my goodness. Yeah, look, So what I'm experiencing now is kind of because... Again, we had a massive tutorial on how to use the inventory system, which to be fair, I needed because the inventory system still feels quite difficult to use. But we haven't had much onboarding into combat, so that was the first time I've had a combat that wasn't just a couple of slimes coming at me across the floor. I remember you roasting a story-driven deck builder for appealing to a non-existent overlap. Defend yourself. I don't think it's a non-existent overlap, but I think if you need to be able... Your game needs to make it clear why the things you've put together are put together. You know? And the story-driven deck builder, I remember what that was, because it was one of the... it was one of the games from Indie Game Academy. And I think the issue I was feeling with that game was, if I'm here to play a deck builder and I want to do strategic deck building, my tolerance, it might even be Griftlands I was talking about at the same time actually, my tolerance for, like, hearing lots of story between combats is very, very low. Because every time we do a dialogue scene or something in a deck builder, you're kind of drawing my attention away from... you know, holding in my memory what is in my deck and thinking strategically about my deck, which is what I'm there to do. You can have... I mean, you know, Slay the Spire does have story events. And you can have story events where there's, like, a story and... You know, you could do a more narrative Slay the Spire where instead of just picking a card abstractly after each combat there's a choose your own adventure, and the inputs and outputs of the choose your own adventure nearly always give you a card or allow you to get rid of a card or whatever. To me, that would be a great integration of story and and deck building. But it's just when you put two things together and they conflict, that doesn't mean the things fundamentally conflict and can't be put together, but they might be, it might be that you've put them together in a way that like doesn't make the best use of those two things, you know? I think that's kind of the way I think about it. It's Rebobbin. Everyone bully Rebobbin and tell him to finish a damn game. I was hoping you were in the chat already, Rebobbin. Luxurious milk. Oh, look, it's a big old milk. It takes up half my inventory. Yeah, I think this level structure is a little... I can see like a thing being loaded in above me there when I come in and out of this room. This level structure feels a little bit repetitive, you know. I think it's part of the problem of trying to represent a big 3D space in this side-scroller thing. As we go into these rooms, you know, we go into the next room, we go into the next room. It feels like a lot of copy-pasta stuff. Yeah, I don't think JRPGs are a good model for, like, indie games generally. I think the level of art and story required to make a game in that mode that people care about is very, very high. It's what I kind of... I think I use Fire Emblem as an example of that. Like, Fire Emblem does lots of things that I would think are bad game design in lots of instances. And you can do them if you're Fire Emblem, you know? You can make a tactics game where no combat happens for an hour because everyone's doing some drama, right? And Fire Emblem proves that, but it can only do that because it's Fire Emblem. And it's got, like... both the art and you know, the art and writing team to be able to do that, and also the brand power of being a Fire Emblem game that people will buy because it's Fire Emblem. You know, I'm gonna move on to the next game. There's lots of good stuff here. I don't think the combat... I think, like I said, the feedback from performing actions, like attacking things and stuff, is just too weak. We don't have enough onboarding into the combat in that introductory sequence. It's too focused on the inventory, how the inventory management works. And we do need that introduction, because even at this stage, I'm still finding there's a stage in the looting thing where I press the buttons and then it asks me to pick which item on the floor I'm picking. And I forget that I'm at that stage, and I think I'm already in my inventory. So there's definitely a need to practice and tutorialize the inventory system. But I do think you need to introduce the game with the exciting part of the game, the more kind of thematic, visceral element of the game before you... it was just it felt very strange to have a tutorial that was walking through one room, having one sort of inventory interaction, like this is how you put ammo here, and then going into another room and going, this is how you put a weapon here, this is how you put your torch here, without it being broken up in some way by a few more like combat things and stuff to onboard it. So it took so long to get through that, and then I get into the actual extraction gameplay, which could be quite good, but at this point my combat skills are so weak because I haven't practiced them that the ramp from going to the tutorial, which is entirely based around the inventory system, into the actual pure gameplay is just too steep. So there's a lot of cool stuff here, and I think the things that you need to fix about this game to make it way, way better are actually quite small. You know, feedback and juice on actually shooting stuff, and yeah, just making that tutorial have a little bit more combat in it, so that when we get to the actual combat, it's not overwhelming. Okay, we're going to do Mega Battle. Now we get to beat up some robots. I thought there would be more robots in the last one. There were some, but... Choose your class. Don't make me choose my class. I don't... Right, so we've got a choice of class and we don't know what they are yet because we haven't played the game. This is okay, but it's not a great idea in a kind of... in any sort of strategy game to give people this choice up front, because Group A and Group B, you're basically A/B testing these two things, and you don't know if people are going to like accidentally choose the thing that's bad for them, you know? Terran or Pyron. Okay, they are types and we can choose one or the other. Pyron is powerful attacks and resources to cause burns, overheating enemies. We're going to just go with Terran to start off with. So you have classes and you can mix them together. I mean, psychedelic games is quite a broad category. Would you consider Skate Story a psychedelic game? Because that's quite structured. In the workshop, we can change your robot's parts for other parts you acquire during your journey. You may equip new... Okay. Some parts have modifiers. They are abilities with an icon on top of it. These parts will have specific... I would go straight into piloting a deck of cards before you do this. Generally speaking, I think if you've got a game that is about upgrading something, let people pilot the thing they're upgrading before you start showing them the menus that allow them to upgrade it. Feels a bit weird. But I don't care about any of this because I don't know what it does. It's like if you were teaching someone how to play Magic the Gathering, you would start by giving them a pre-constructed deck. Or giving them one of your decks and then explaining and then playing the game and explaining how it works. You wouldn't start by getting them to build a deck. I mean, some people might want to do that and have done, and that's fine. But it wouldn't be the intuitive way of teaching the game. You would focus on piloting first, piloting the deck, playing a match, and then you would introduce modifying the deck or making a whole deck after that. Yeah, it's a cool concept. I like the fact that, yeah, our deck is derived from what's on our mech, I think. On the map, each path is made of nodes. Each node has a type, and by knowing these types, you'll be able to make a better journey towards the end. MegaBattle is such a generic name as well. You're really missing out on something by not having the words deck and mech in your game as a title. Let's just go and... I'm going to just type deck mech into here and see what comes up. Mech Tech. There's no other games that combine the words deck and mech in the title. And you've made a game that uses this combination of things and you've called it MegaBattle. Mech Shuffle, Mech Tech. People make strange choices. Yeah, we can't see the map. Combat nodes initiate, yeah. Do we need to know this yet? Do we need to know this yet? Like explaining an incredibly common setup in a game. And also, a lot of what you just explained in like 3 pages of pause stuff, it's already here in the hover over tooltips. The whole point of having hover over tooltips is so that you don't have to pre-explain things. Okay. Battle attainable. Battle and then we can choose to go the event way. Let's go. I mean, this way has two events. Let's go this way. We want to go through an event to see what events are like, I guess. Let's start there. Yeah, Skate Story is fantastic. It's both an actually good skating game and a weird psychedelic game. I would really... If you find those games appealing, but often a little bit too chaotic, I would really recommend Skate Story. The skating in it is very hard. It's meant to model how difficult and painful skating is. So there's lots of like falling over from minor things. It feels much more like Skate than Tony Hawk, but it's really good. To defeat your opponent in a duel and win, you must use your cards to reduce your opponent's robot's integrity to 0. The way to do it is to use your cards together with your robot's powers. Okay. Duel, this is your hand. Oh, come on. I mean, again, the whole point of using cards and decks of cards is that we understand them already, you know. We understand what a hand of cards is. Even like the first games of this type, they were using cards to shortcut some of this explanation. Go and play, please just actually play the tutorial of Slay the Spire if you're working on one of these games and see how much of this happens, because there's way less than this. Okay, here's my mech. It's got attack and defense of different parts. So they're going to be attacking different parts of my mech, and I'm going to be attacking different parts of their mech. And the enemy intentions are up there. This is what they're going to do. This is like an action queue. Are they going to do both of these in the next turn, or is it going to do this one and then this one? We'll find out. Okay, we've got stuff I can do. They've just got all neutral body parts. I've got Terran body parts. I think this music is not conducive to people thinking. I know that it's thematically appropriate, but go and play turn-based games and find me a successful turn-based game that has really pumping music like this with like a hard snare drum in. You won't find one. And it's particularly that snare drum that makes it action game music and not thinking game music. So I'm going to turn it down. You can have very tense music, but go and listen to the music in StarCraft 2. Check out Into the Grid, which is another kind of mechy cyberpunk themed deck builder. They have like almost like tense techno game show music, but they won't have like at that BPM, because it puts your brain in a mode that you don't want it to be in when you're trying to do this type of thinking. And some people might not experience that, but on the whole, they will. And again, that's just a choice that you can notice by playing other games. It's not there is some kind of psychology to it and some neuroscience to it, but you can really just notice it by playing other games. Deal 10 damage. Apply fierce to the attacking part. Okay, so you're going to use one of our body parts as attacker and then choose their target. So we're attacking their arm with our minigun, trying to disable their weapon. You lose players if they don't know what to do, yes, but I mean, they've done all of the things that they need to do in this game in terms of like having the tooltips and the helper mechanics, and I think yeah, the selling tutorials rarely do align with the game making tutorials, and that's because well, I can't be bothered to get into it. I feel like I'm talking about this constantly. The stuff about how to sell games is disproportionately aimed at people that don't have the awareness to know that their game is not ready for sale. And that is why there is such little overlap between business and technology game dev YouTube and game design YouTube. That's why the folks that watch the business stuff think that a channel like Game Maker's Toolkit is not a good game dev channel, because it doesn't tell you how to sell things and it doesn't tell you how to make things in Unity. So the whole time you try and do game design content that's aimed at people that have already assumed that what they're making is at a saleable level, and are like, I just want to know how to do marketing. A lot of the time you'll be dealing with people that like are just trying to ship whatever they've made regardless of what quality it is. So there's that. I think the reason for that disjunct is kind of there. Okay, I can do a guard, which I can put on my head, and that will heal my head a little bit. I can do I guess I should try and take out this weapon here. I've got 2 weapons that both deal 20, so if I attack twice and I use my gun and my arm, I can break this arm, I think. Yeah, the VFX are cool. I like the fact that we're using lots of stuff we've seen before in games, but we've got like a fundamentally different layer here. Which is good because I think fans of a genre don't want like a reskin of exactly the same thing. They generally want to apply the same skills they learned in the same game, but have a new set of things to learn. Okay, we're gonna kick it this time. We're gonna use our feet. I can't attack that one. Okay. It won't allow me... Will it not allow me to attack the same part twice? That's annoying. I'll kick you in the head. So you want something structurally different about the game. You don't want... You know, I've been working with someone... you would have seen Fame and Folly on the channel before. There's like a blackjack deck builder, like a push your luck deck builder. And the dev of that, who, you know, I've been having calls with every month, is like a big Balatro fan, and a lot of that game is based on Balatro, but they said that a lot of the Balatro fans, they don't want exactly the same as Balatro, because they want a game that makes them think the same way, but they want to have to learn new skills, because that's what learning a game is. And if there's no new skills to learn, because it's just, you know, the sci-fi reskin of a fantasy game or something like that, that's not going to scratch the itch for them. And I think that's one of the reasons why, if you go back to the old Final Fantasy games, 7, 8, 9, whatever, or all of them really, they always have new combat systems, new gear systems, new skill progression systems, because part of, you know, coming back to JRPGs, part of the appeal of JRPGs is learning the system. And I know that lots of people play them for the world building and the story, but there is a reason why they don't stick to the same system for each of those games. And it was the same for like other RPG series, like the Sega Shining series and stuff. They don't stick to the same system, and that's not because they think the previous system was bad. It's because they know that the appeal of playing their games is learning to master that system, because you don't just want to take a strategy from one game and then reapply it in the sequel. You want to learn a new game, because part of gameplay is learning the strategy of that game, and that's particularly important in skill and strategy based games, for there to be something significantly different and not just like the same game with you know, upgraded graphics or something like that. So what I already really like here is that we just have like a fundamentally different thing going with. This is all stuff we recognize, and then the stuff going on in the middle here is very different from what we might have played before. Okay, I've just put some armor on that one, I think. We're going to do a strike from there to try and take out the gun again. I'm going to keep putting light blades in my deck, because I think it doesn't show me what the light blade here is, but I think it's like a cheap attack card. We're going to... I don't need to recover anything though, so I'm going to put Fierce on my arm. Gives it 20 extra damage. Next time apart with Fierce attacks, increase its damage dealt by X. Okay. Yeah, that's what the fist is. That's 10 extra damage, 20 extra damage. Gonna put some armor on myself and then end the turn. Let's make this really fierce fist. Alright, we got 40 bonus damage on this. So this is going to do 60 damage now. So let's just... Can we take that arm out now? Put it on there. Oh. Put it on there. I'm not sure why I can't target certain things. Is that shield there stopping? So this is stuff, if Dev, if you're watching this, this is the stuff where I'm not totally sure what's happening. So I choose a strike, I click on my arm to do a strike, I go there, I can't do it. Now I can see lots of icons that might be involved in stopping me. Like maybe it's this little mirror here, maybe it's this. But as a new player, I just don't know. So I click there trying to attack that because this is doing 40 plus 20 damage and I want to blow that up in one go. I'm trying to do that, and I could do it on this, but that would be overkill because that's got 40 health, and maybe it's better to spend the 60 here where I can use it all. So I think what should happen is if it's this or this that's preventing me clicking, we want to do an error, and then we want to highlight what's causing the error. So if it's this mirrory thing up here, because maybe this is like a... no, that's not. When this part attacks increases... Okay, so that's not what's stopping it. I don't know what's stopping me attacking here. So we want to show that I can't attack here and do some sort of error type thing. And also show why. But for some reason, the arm can only attack that one. So I'm going to break that now. You've destroyed an enemy robot part. Not only can it not attack, but your enemy's integrity is now vulnerable. Attack parts with 0 defense until you reduce your opponent's integrity to 0. Okay, so basically the health at the top, the integrity, is what goes down when we smash a body part that is already destroyed. It's a great system. It's really intuitive. I think the theming of this game is very strong. Like, I can't attack there now. Is that because I've already hit it? I don't know. Okay, I need to choose what to attack with, so I will attack with the gun this time. And shoot it in the head, because the health on the head is low. Not sure what this icon means. I feel like the tooltip system is incomplete, because we've got icons and they don't... You know, this tooltip system just picks the card, the body part that we're on. It doesn't really... It's not context aware enough, I think, is the way I would think of this. So when I go on this one, it shows me what this icon means. It says Magna Core at the bottom. And this one shows me what the honing engine is. They don't tell me what this blue thing means or what this bonus thing is. So the tooltip system is not context aware enough. And again, if you strongly compare it, if you closely compare it to the Slay the Spire one, the Slay the Spire one will tell you what every single icon on that area of the screen means at any given time. And the one in Darkest Dungeon. It's just a little bit more attention to detail you need on some of that stuff. Okay, we're gonna put the I put the fierce on. Oh, does that mean I can do a chest bump now? I accidentally put the fierce on my chest instead of my arm. I think we've also got a lot of this blue in the background, which is part of the interface color, and I would really be tempted to think about making the arena, making sure it's totally contrasting and we don't have too much of this, you know, main blue out there. One of the things you can do is you can have a starting area of a game which is one set of colors to create the contrast to make the game easier to understand. And then later in the game, you can do away with that because people know how to play the game at that point. It's one of the reasons why, if you play something like Hades, look at how the character stands out so well in the early parts. We've got a red, white, and black character in a green-blue environment. Very easy to see what's going on. Very easy to see where your kind of magic is triggering and the little red gem is going from the magic. Later on in the game, we can have an orange or a red level where the character gets lost a bit, but you need to pay more attention to the color contrasts in the earlier part of the game. So I would be very, very tempted to make the starting arena a color that isn't in any of these cards or things. Make it like purple or something. Make it purple or brown or just something that makes sure that none of this stuff gets lost. Because it will make the game easy to learn, and you can deviate from that later on. But I think that's a helpful general rule. Whatever type of game you're making, is design the color language of the game for readability in the early parts of the game, and that means that, you know, the setting or the location in the early parts of the game or the lighting should be chosen to contrast from the main game mechanical elements. And then later on, you can make it blend a little bit in, and it doesn't matter so much because at that point, the players know how to play the game, and it doesn't matter if they can't distinguish things as much. If anything, it's like, you know, adding a bit of challenge for someone who at that point would welcome it because they've played the game for that long and kind of proven to you that they like the game and they're up for a challenge. They're going to kill me as well. There we go. It's a great negative fanfare for defeat. That's a very measly little XP bar to start off with. Okay, new run. Let's try again. Okay, we're going to try a mixed Pyron Terran now. Give me 1 second. Sorry about that. Okay, now we've got the mixed type of robot. We're getting the fire-themed one with the standard-themed one. Yeah, first combat didn't seem super tuned to give us a good, an easy time, which I would always be aware of doing, because part of your onboarding the player isn't just making sure that they understand; it's making sure they're having a good time and they want to keep playing. If you think of the games that do use failure as part of their onboarding, they don't allow you to get stuck in that, right? So think of what Dark Souls does. Introduces you to an overpowerful enemy, kills you, and then takes you somewhere else. So that primes you for it to be a game about failure and lets you know, hey, this game is going to kick your ass, but it doesn't actually make you fight that boss over and over again. It just fights the boss. It's like a thematic kind of emotional primer, and then moves you past that point and puts you in the normal game. So if we kind of have an experience now where the first combat is consistently too difficult multiple times, then maybe the issue would be identifying is that it's not kind of easy to work out where we're going wrong, right? Because in a skill-based or strategy-based game, when you're watching your playtesters, you want to see if they get better, and that's always the thing to watch for. You know, if people play the game and they verbally say it's too hard, but then they play it again and they don't find it too hard because they got better at it, then the game is not actually too hard. The game is doing a good job of teaching through punishment if they are able to do better the second time. So I'm not sure whether I really understood where I went wrong with that last turn, but if I'm able to beat it this time, maybe it's because I understand the game better at this stage. We'll see. Okay, we're going to put a Pyron chest. Once per turn, when this part attacks, apply burn to the attack part. So we've got like a... Yeah, okay, cool. Go this way. Yeah, again, like red and orange background. It's kind of making it hard to see. I think this being orange is fine because it's up past the gameplay area, but here we've got lots of red card elements on a red background. Just need to be very conscious of that in the early part of the game. That's why the first area in a lot of roguelikes is the colour it is. Target part games 20 fierce. Okay, let's put the fierce on our new fire body. And then strike with it and attack one of their weapons. So they've got 20 burn on there. At the turn's end, deal X damage to that part. When it says at the turn's end, does that mean my turn or their turn? Because it's written as if it's neutral. Do another attack. This time we're going to use the pyro on the left arm to attack the other weapon. Just try and disable their weapons. Excess defense is converted into armor. So let's put that on our head, because that's got relatively low defense. I love the way the actual robots are kind of animated in this. It's really appealing. Again, I think if you kind of cool down the background colors, it will make these guys stand out more and they will feel more impactful. I feel like this is a case of a game where the individual art assets are all fine, but the kind of thinking about the overall color composition and stuff is maybe a little bit weaker. The individual illustrations on the cards are great. We're gonna... This part is basically taking constant damage now. We're going to try and break the other arm with another fire attack. So it's got 10 left, but it's going to take 20 more damage. I guess the fire mechanic is basically what would be our poison in a normal... in a setting that wasn't about robots. I think the theming of it as fire makes a lot of sense here. Burn the body. They've got 40 burn damage on the body because I used my torso, which has a 20 burn on it, and then I used a card that added more. I think that, so this blue heart is basically letting you know it's dead, or it's taking, you know... I don't think color coding that to the player makes sense. Because over here it looks red, which makes it look like danger, but here it looks kind of like a positive thing because it's blue. And maybe this should be like a broken metal heart or something that's just like a rusty metal, or just something that just looks universally bad because the color coding is making it look like it's meant to be indicating that it's positive or negative, and it's... that's kind of confusing. Right, we'll do another attack on the body. We're doing better this time, mate. Yeah, like they do have a lower health bar, but the last time we played, they were just caning us. Right, I can't attack with my chest because I need to heal it, and now I can't use that. I'm going to heal my chest a few times because that's got the most helpful built-in ability. Yeah, it'd be nice to see a little bit more of the effects of these things on here, you know? Like, even if just that body part became a bit kind of desaturated and had smoke coming out of it, because, look, we've broken these three things. No reflection of that here. And I think that comes back to that point from the last game about, like, teaching emotionally. Like, at this stage, I'm doing well, I'm doing okay, I need some more health. But I've beaten up like 3 parts of the robot, and I can see that from the interface here. But we've put this here, and like one of the benefits of using these 3D models is if you were to go, okay, we're going to make this look broken now. We're going to have, you know, like there's smoke coming out of it. Maybe it's got some desaturate. Maybe it's got a shader that takes all of the bright colors and turns them into rust or something. Smoke coming out of it. Maybe there's some jitter on that part of the body or something. That's just going to make it so much more satisfying to break the other robot, and so much more kind of worrying when your robot is getting broken. That's a little bit of a missed opportunity there. I think that's an area where I think there's a lot of room for improvement, is the relationship between the state of your robot at a kind of tactical level of kind of tactical game variables, and the stuff that's being communicated in the robot. Because the robot animations are very satisfying for the attacks and stuff. That's great. I love that. And I love the robot designs. Like this green guy particularly. They look cool. They sell the fantasy, but what's not being sold is the fantasy of like breaking the opponent down, or of struggling against being broken down yourself, which is arguably more linked to the longer term goals of the game mechanics than the individual attacks are, which is where we've put a lot of the effort here. Okay, yeah. Okay, we're going to do Pure Fire guy next. So I did a hybrid then. We're going to do Pure Fire. But yeah, there's something here where it feels like... it feels a little bit like... It's kind of just a rush to commercial release kind of thing again, where I feel like the dev hasn't really watched many people play the game and seen what they struggle with. They've built as much of the game as they possibly can without playtesting, and I may be wrong, but it does have that feeling here where, you know, we've got a big tutorial, we've got all the stuff that should be in a fully realized game, but then you've got someone just losing the first combat twice that plays quite a lot of these games. Yeah, focus down the parts that are 0. Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, that's kind of like the classic way that you win party versus party combat in like tactical RPGs as well. Okay, so is any of these got some sort of attack? This is the most dangerous attacking part of these 3. So I want to just completely ignore the neutral left arm. These parts gain a protection field when they're destroyed. So maybe I'll just aim for the head, because that's got 20 attack and it doesn't have any like extra abilities. So we're going to just like focus on the head. Hang on. See, I think that blue thing is to stop you from attacking the same thing twice in a turn, but again, it's not in the tooltips. So I will use the other attack on... This gets more dangerous when they play a skill, so maybe we should get rid of that. Okay, head and torso, I think, is the damage focus on this one. I think when you break apart, its attack number doesn't go down, but they stop being able to actually apply cards to it unless they're like repair healing cards. I think that's what's happening. Right. This attack is unblockable if the part is on fire. So we're going to set their torso on fire. That should add... We're up to 30 fire on that one now. And then... Let's just do 2 standard attacks straight to the head. 1 there. So it's got that shield again. I can't attack it twice. That's really annoying. It feels quite artificial, the fact that you can't attack things twice. So I think that you can't attack the same body part twice. It just arbitrarily puts that thing on top of it. That blue shield thing to say you can't do it. And when the body parts of the opponent are down, they can still use them. They can heal them by playing their guard cards on them. But I don't think they can attack with them until they've healed them, which is what the little heart over the yellow means. It's not a block. It's just an artificial, like, the game saying you can only attack things once in one go, I think. We're going to blast the chest with the chest again. We're going to Tony Stark it. So as soon as that's on there, you can't attack it again. It's a very artificial limitation. It's one of those limitations where I can maybe imagine how they got there. Like, they realized they needed it because otherwise you could just spam the same area. But it doesn't feel like it's well communicated. It took us a while to work out how it worked. Maybe it was explained in some of the tutorial, but again, if it was just in the tooltip and it said, this icon means blah, blah, blah. I think you have a few too many icons that seem like they are colored to be something to do with the player color or something. Okay, unblockable attack on there. Yeah, that works. Okay. So it said unblockable attacks can attack parts that are blocking. I think the language of blocking is a little bit confusing, because blocking implies that the character or the controller is choosing to do something, whereas what's actually happening is there is a game level interface decision to say, to make this game fair, to make it balanced, whatever, we're going to say you can't attack the same thing twice. I don't think that's what blocking is. I think there's a language problem there. Again, the mechanic would be more intuitive if the blocking icon was included in the tooltips. When selecting for a card reward, you'll be shown a group of possible cards and the number of possible acquisitions. Choose a reward. Selected cards 01. Okay, so this interface tells us everything we needed to know from that last few steps of the tutorial. We're choosing a reward and we can choose one. Vapor Flux. Player part receives 20 for each part that has fire. Oh, I like that. We can heal based on how much stuff is on fire. Player part recovers 100 and gains burn. Don't want that. Create a pyronic coal in your deck. Deal. Yeah, I'm going to get Vapor Flux. That's interesting. That's a, defense card that interacts with our fire-based strategy. Okay. Up to the next one. Just dipping back into the Discord to see if the Echo Extract dev has seen that we had that issue. Don't think he's online for whatever reason. Help the man. I did wonder how the events were going to work, because the story framing here is that we're in an arena and that everything is taking place in an arena. Now we're walking to an objective and I don't want a chance of an extra battle. Gain credits and card? Okay, let's try it. Okay. Adaptive AI at the start of your turn, draw 1. Okay, that's a power up, so that's a... Yeah, I'm not sure those having the story events take place in the world outside makes that much sense. Your turn. What have they got? Monster accumulator. On turn end, increase the attack of all parts by 10. We need to break that. I'll attack it with my... I'm going to Tony Stark it with the chest blast because we want to put the stacking fire on top of that to disable it as quickly as possible. Do we know anything about where they're going to attack? Ah, yeah, we do. They're attacking my head and my right arm. Okay, so I'm going to play defensively this time. And bop him in the head because they've got a head with a lot of attack on this one. I'm charging my laser. Okay. The more stuff that's on fire, the more defense we get out of Vapor Flux. So we do want to set some stuff on fire. Let's put a burn on the head. So do that with the cannon. And then see where they're attacking. They're attacking my right arm and my head again. My right arm is probably a more important thing to defend. So we'll put that on there. It's done nothing. Oh, okay. It's because Vapor Flux doesn't convert... it doesn't convert defense into armor when you overscore on it, which feels a little bit unintuitive and also devalues that card quite a bit. So Vapor Flux is only for healing. It doesn't have any overcharge where you get this little blue armor thing. That's a shame. But I know now. It's only the regular defense card that turns the excess defense into armor. Okay, we're going to give ourselves the... I've got a thing that gives me... I'm going to draw an extra card each turn now. That's what this is. Arm down. Head down. Oof, they're boosting the attack of all of their body parts over there. Right, let's bring my arm back online. I thought I did. It hasn't come back. Did I click on the wrong thing? Did I click on the chest instead? Okay. That's unblockable on something that's on fire, so we'll add it there. That should go down next turn. And then let's attack the head. So we do some health bar damage. There we go. We're doing okay. We're doing okay. Some big volume differences in some of these attacks and stuff. Okay, we're going to recover some health on there. Fix that. I'll set a... Can I set a different body part on fire? I can if I use my chest. So let me take that bit and bop that on the head. And then I'll use Vapor Flux because we've got 2 body parts on fire. So that's going to give us 40 repair to the head. Okay, good. Oof. I'm going to do one more run of this because one thing I haven't heard back about Echo Extract from Endo. So I will try that game again after this next run, but I'm going to do one more run of this. This is definitely kind of working in the sense that I want to keep playing. I want to keep getting better at it. It is too difficult for us to, you know, die on the first combat the first few times, die on the third combat the next one. It feels a little bit kind of... There's something going on. I understand how to play it better now. And I do feel like I'm getting better. And it does have that pull of like when I lose, I want to play again. But I think you're going to lose quite a lot of players who don't understand why they're losing in the first 1 or 2 combats. And that's not because you don't have enough pop-up tutorial. It's because some of the unintuitive mechanics are not explained in the situation where you need them explained. And the blocking thing just needs to be in the tooltips need to be way more context aware. Okay, Terran Chest. Once per turn, when this part attacks, it gains Fierce. Okay. Going back to the basic guy. We'll go this way, past the repair shop. I don't really care to see more events. I don't... I'm not sure that those are working for me. Here we go. Yeah, I think the background color is based on your choice of starting mech. I don't think that's what you should be basing your starting background color on, but I'm not going to repeat that conversation. Okay, where are they attacking me? They're attacking me in the head, in the head twice, and in the right arm. But they're trying to freeze it. We've got a freeze enemy here. That's cool. So I'm gonna defend my head. We'll do a strike with the... Okay, we're going to put Fierce on the chest. And we're also going to attack with the chest because it keeps leveling up its fierceness when we do that. And let me just see which bit is allowing it to... I don't think... Yeah, that... We just need... It's got loads of damage. This has got like 60 damage parts on the first enemy. I don't understand what's going on there. Right, let's boop it. And then we'll guard the right arm. We're also calling this the right arm, even though it's on the left side of the screen. I understand why that is, but it's a little bit confusing. Yeah, I'm not sure why they do that. I think the reason why they have the selectable armor is to kind of show you what you got from your choice, but it feels like a little bit easy to accidentally do something bad there. Okay. Keep adding Fierce. Take that arm off. Yeah, I don't think the game being too difficult is a conscious decision beyond just like the designer has played the game too much and hasn't watched other people play the game enough. Right arm, head. Right, we need to defend our head again. Love that frosty arm. This is a cool looking robot. But again, there would be a real benefit to the art style here to have this background in a sort of dark brown or desaturated grey or like a purpley blue, because this guy would be showing up so much more now. Both these guys would be popping out so much more. Yeah, the Discord's a Patreon reward. Helps it to stay small. Stop repairing yourself. Yeah. Okay, should be able to finish them this turn. If I can hit the head a couple of times. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, it feels like there's a bunch of decisions that have been made about balance that is like the health amount. I mean, the reason why the health is so much higher is because you have to survive through multiple matches and they don't, right? But yeah, the locking so you can't attack the same thing twice and then calling it blocking. There's lots of things where you can see what they were trying to kind of fix a particular problem, but I'm not sure that the fixes used always make sense or are kind of communicated the right way. So the fierce is the kind of main keyword we get from this character. We can get a regeneration skill that is like a, you know, automatic healing. I think that sounds like it could be quite cool. It's very different from what we've done so far with setting everyone on fire. So let's try that out. What does that do? On break, decrease the attack of all its owner's parts. Okay. That's because it's a neutral chest. I see. You've got like a debuff chest there. Zap you in the noggin. I would think that health carries over to the next match. Yeah, just because that's how these deck builders work, right? They're about like taking chip damage and then repairing it, and I do think they need to think about how some of this stuff makes sense in the setting or stuff, or not, because I think the story events don't really make sense in the setting, and I find that a little bit unsatisfying. Like, we've established that the whole game is fights in a stadium, so let's keep it that way. This background is what I think the first level should use, because this is way clearer. Like, all the interface pops out on this background way better, because the colors are a bit more muted. They're using colors that aren't in the cards and the robots. Okay, we're gonna repair these parts. We're gonna do a righteous blow using our chest. I'm gonna chest you in the head. This one's really aggressive. Right, what are you doing now? You're doing some repairing and you are attacking me in the head. Okay, you're protecting your chest and your lowest part. Okay, so we're gonna focus on repairing. I did the wrong one again. It's quite easy to misclick these. I'm not sure how you prevent that, but it is quite easy. And deal damage to a light part if it's deadly. Create another. Deal damage to an enemy part if it's deadly. Create another light blade. That's fun. I don't know if that works if it's already at 0. Probably not. But I guess we could try. Let's do a regular strike for now. Oof. There, we killed him. Let's get another light blade. That's a fun mechanic. I like those kind of mechanics. What the in Slay the Spire, they have them where it's like if you kill one of the enemies with this, if this card strikes the deadly blow, you know, it gives you gold or it levels up the card or something. I like those mechanics because they're like a fun way of having a much higher risk reward attached to a particular card. What are these doing? So these have got fragile power accumulation. On turn starts, increase this part's attack by 10. When this part is damaged, reduce its attack by 20. Okay, so we want to just bash the arms on this guy. Right, we'll do a fierce attack from the chest. Bash one of the arms. We'll do a shine seal from one of our weapons so that we... Oh no, that's a repair, isn't it? Oh, foolish. Okay, we'll do an attack from that and bash the other arm. And that's... feels like a decent starting turn. Yeah, we see our damage carries over from last one. This is why there are those purple nodes on the map with spanners on, because they're repairs, I think. Very aggressive first turn from them. They're attacking my arm and my head. Okay. Next time they're going to attack my chest, so I could repair this, but I don't really need to. I don't need to repair my head yet, unless I've got a repair that I want to use because it creates a card I need. So I'll probably do a Righteous Blow and one guard to repair. And let's try and get one of these weapons whittled down. This one has got loads of armor on it. Let's level up my chest blast because this kind of red fist icon can keep attacking, keep stacking this, and this chest is just going to get more and more powerful. So I'll do it there, and it's like 50 damage this turn. Okay, I'm going to guard my head, put some more health back on that, and I will heal my arm, even though I don't need to do it quite yet. I think there are just quite a lot of hurdles in the way of learning this game, and some of them are to do with the visual design, some of them are to do with the tooltip thing not being context aware enough. And although I think you've put a good effort into like trying to tutorialize this game, I think maybe you haven't really understood what a tutorial needs to do and what onboarding needs to do, and it's too much focused on pre-explaining things rather than making sure things are explained well in context when you need them. You know, the tooltips are the tooltip implementation is incomplete and not aware of which things players don't understand when they're new to the game, which again feels like either a lack of playtesting or playtesting for too long with players who already understand the game. That can happen as well. And you do want to do long-term playtesting with the same players so that you can test the strategic element of the game and the content. Like, you know, I've got my gang of buddies that play my game. Okay, how do they respond when I give them this new ice stuff? You want to test that. But that group of playtesters is going to be no good at identifying these more like core issues with understanding the UX and stuff like that. You need to do Kleenex testing for that. You need to test with people that haven't played the game before. Come on, need to blow these arms up. $10 damage, create a light blade in your hand. Got 40 pit fierce here. We're gonna... Okay, I need to remember that I need to... Basically, I need to attack these arms every turn, because if I don't, they become more powerful. And when I hit them, they lose attack power, so they do need to be hit every time. It's not an interesting enemy to fight, because there's a thing that is always the right thing to do, basically. But we don't have any unblockable attacks, which means we can never attack the same part twice. Okay, that's looking good. Arms are weakened. Knees weak, arms are heavy. There's robot on his sweater already. Robot spaghetti. He's nervous. But on the surface, he looks calm and ready to light slash. But he keeps on forgetting what he wrote down. The whole crowd goes so loud. He opens his robot mouth. The robot words just won't come out. You've got to lose yourself in the robot. The moment you robot, you better never let it go. You only get one shot. Do not miss your righteous blow. Because opportunity comes once in a mega battle, yo. I'm gonna laser you in your arm. Frickin' laser. Attacking me twice. I think I'll be alright. I think we'll survive this one. Yeah, the fact that you can't attack the same place twice, it does create an interesting tension, because you basically need two of their body parts to be on the broken status, the heart thing. Otherwise you can only deal their kind of, what's it called, their health bar damage in one location, and that means you can only attack them once each time in a way that's kind of meaningful. It's a really good system. think it just needs to be taught better and not depending on the tutorial lady to do all the teaching. At the start of your turn, creating a light blade in your hand. That would be fun. Recover. And that's like a healing yourself constantly. Yeah, let's get light arsenal. That sounds cool. We're just pulling lightsabers out the wazoo. Right. Repair shop. Give me some repairs. Fix 100 integrity, fix 30% integrity. Yeah, give me all my integrity back. I don't have enough. Okay. Cool. Not a super interesting trade-off, because when I get there, if I don't have the money, it's basically not a choice. Don't care about horse racing. Okay, so we are going through space fighting at different arenas. Okay, we're going to play Light Arsenal at the start because that's a power-up for the entire match and it makes sense to try and get as much out of it possible. They are going to boof us in the head, so I'm going to put regeneration on my head as well, which is going to last for a couple of rounds. That felt like a good first turn. Pretty decent. Okay, gonna blast with the chest. What does this arm do? On your opponent's turn start, this part gains provoke. Provoke. While there are parts with provoke, they must be attacked first. Okay, that's like the Hearthstone taunt keyword. Let's put fierce on this arm. Let's upgrade a different, like a couple of parts of the body, give them more attack. And then we'll do a light blade from somewhere, which it's not going to spawn another light blade. That card's just going to get deleted, but I don't think we should like hold on to the light blades until they can reproduce, because otherwise we're wasting a zero cost attack card. That's where you have to like watch for your loss aversion, because it's like the light blades, they have this they do damage. They're already good because they're an attack that doesn't cost you any energy from that body part. But they have this additional thing where they create a copy of themselves in your deck if they do lethal damage to that body part. And that's great, but that can like encourage you to hold on to them when you should play them, I think. Which is that's an interesting decision. It's good that it works that way. Right, we're going to put the extra fierce on the chest and do 70 damage from the chest. So let's where's a good place to put that? I have to do it on the provocative body part. It's got so much health, ridiculous. Let's go for the legs. I think we just need to like attack the weaker parts of the body on this one because it's got so much health. Ridiculous. Let's do some repairs on that arm. Okay, what do we need to do? Head is damaged. We put regeneration on the head again. I don't think that's any better than guarding because it costs 2 energy. This guy is tough. This guy is tough. Right. 10 damage from there. Attack the provoking part again. We'll do another attack from there. This is really difficult because the part keeps provoking. I hit it because I have to. It's still got armor. It's got like 120 health. And there's not much I can do to shut it down so it can't keep doing that provocation move. Keeps zapping me in the noodle. Right. Do I have anything that lets me draw? I do have a thing that lets me draw. Okay, let's build up the fierce on my chest. And then we'll use a light blade to attack the provoking arm. Now that opens us up to attack where we want to attack. And now I think I should start building some fierce up on one of my other arms. So let's put this up to 20 and attack them in the legs with that one. And I've still got a light blade, so I will use the chest to attack with that, and we'll attack the head with that one. Okay, they're only doing one repair now. See you later, Alec. Thanks for joining. Okay, we're going to have to attack here regardless. I think attacking here with the weakest body part is probably a good idea. So if I repair my head, attack the provoking thing with my head. Keep leveling up how much fierce my chest has. This is such a difficult combat. It's I'm not. That's not a complaint. I'm actually quite enjoying the thinking required for this. But yeah, it's. I think how difficult the opponents get early on in the chain, like someone said earlier, it feels like I think it was Connor actually. It feels like it's balanced like an arcade game that wants you to lose and put credits in it each time. And again, that's just maybe the difficulty being based on what the dev finds fun after playing their own game a million times, or the difficulty being based on like a very hardcore group of playtesters that have that's grown up around the game as it's being developed. And those are both things that happen. I mean, one is an extension of the first. Right. Weak attack on the left arm because it's going to get wasted anyway. Do a righteous blow from there. We're not going to win this, but it's worth keep trying anyway because it's fun. Zap the legs with the head. I mean, one thing I'm not doing here is like spending a lot of time thinking about the individual units of content, like the individual body parts of the robot, the moves they have, and thinking like, is this balanced? Because at this stage, that's not my concern. I'm having a good time. I had lots of problems with onboarding and understanding the game early on. Once we're past those, the core game is pretty good. It's just making sure that people can get there through like the visual design and the interface and everything. Lots of little problems there. Lots of them not massive problems that are hard to fix, but important too. There we go. Right, that's the end of that one for me. I really like that. there are lots of things I would do differently and things that I think you could improve with not too much effort. But core of the game there, pretty neat. I will try Echo Extract and see if that problem from earlier just solves itself, or if I can find a way around it. But if not, Endo, if you're watching, we can just reschedule this for another one. It's not a big problem. Okay, so start. So the issue I had with this at the start of the screen was that the dodge button wasn't doing anything. Toggle sprint does work. Yeah, the dodge button just doesn't do what it should. And someone suggested maybe it's like a different way round or something, but yeah, it's not. Kind of said, have you ever considered going back to games you gave advice on to see how they've changed after release? I've tried, but without people getting in touch and telling me they did that, it's just a depressing exercise, because so much of the time people don't really want to take and use feedback. They just want to be featured. And they either, you know, I think there are probably loads of people who have used the feedback, but the process of manually looking for that is depressing, because I've seen games where I've given feedback on them, gone to see them commercially released a month later, problem hasn't been addressed or even treated as a problem. And sometimes the problem is subjective, and I can understand why they stuck to their guns, but sometimes the problem is basically a case of, you know, you've made a game design or creative direction decision which is fundamentally lazy and going to make people not interested in your game, and the people still just release the game exactly like it was. So unless people actively get in touch and say, hey, I did this with my game based on your stream, and then I launched it, and here it is, and it's done well, or even if it hasn't done well, people generally don't get in touch and do that. And the process of trying to find out for myself in the past has been quite depressing, because the amount of people that actually are invested enough in improving what they're working on to do those big changes that sometimes are needed is seems like it's relatively small in some cases. And again, sometimes that's because you raise issues where it's just like the developer doesn't know how to fix that thing, or they just don't want to, or it's too much effort, whatever. But you can bring a robot to water, you can't make it drink. Yeah, so sorry, Echo Extract just doesn't seem to be playable today. Maybe if I try it with the keyboard, maybe we can get past this stage. But yeah, space is the... sounds like space is the dodge on the keyboard, and that's not triggering either. So it's not an input problem. Like kind of said, that's the dodge noise, the whoop, whoop. And if I press space on the keyboard, it's not triggering it as well. So something is happening here where that's not working. So Endo, if you're watching this, we will just look at this again another time. Sorry. So yeah, thanks for sending your games in. As always, I am going to be back later today in about 6 hours to play some folks from the Indie Game Clinic Discord's GMTK jam games, and I've seen a few of them. I've seen screenshots of them as we've been working on them in Discord, but I'm looking forward to seeing those and seeing what you've made. I think the theme was quite good this year. It was counting down, I think. It looks like people have done quite interesting things with that. I like the fact that the theme, it sort of suggests a timer and counting down. It doesn't have to. It can be, you know, some sort of number decreasing in a more sort of like slow thinking turn-based context. So it seemed like a good theme, and I'm looking forward to seeing what people did with that. Yeah. So yeah, thank you so much for joining today, and I will be back. We're doing 2 Saturday streams, which is weird because I never stream on a Saturday. But like I said, had internet problems in the week, and I've got my new Virgin cable router over there. I bought a 5-meter Ethernet cable so I could hardwire it to my computer from across the room, and it turns out it's longer than 5 meters, because I don't know if you know this, but when a line isn't straight and it has to go all the way around the outside of the room instead of directly across the middle of the room, the line is longer, which is a interesting thing about how reality works that I didn't consider when I was measuring the cable I needed. So yeah, thanks for dropping in today. And it is the first, so what I'd need to do is I need to put an August newsletter out, and also do our Q&A things for the patrons. So folks in the blue and purple tiers have submitted some questions, and there will be a Q&A going out on the next 3 Fridays based on those questions like we did last month. So that's a new kind of patron feature that we've got now. And yeah, I'm going to go and do some dad stuff and work on my book for a little bit, and I'll be back in the evening with some GMTK stuff. Looking forward to playing those. It's quite nice to play the Game Jam games that are just from our little community, because playing all the games in a Game Jam is, well, it's impossible with big stuff like the GMTK one and the recent Juniper Dev Jam. But having like a small set to look through. If you're watching this now and you're a patron and you haven't posted your game in the thread, I will just see if I can find that on Discord. Trying to find a way to show Discord in a way that doesn't show stuff that you shouldn't see. No, I can't do that right now. But yeah, there's a jam discussion channel under Do Stuff Together, and there's a thread in there called Link Your GMTK Jam Games Here. So yeah, go and pop your game in that if you haven't already and you're watching this. And thanks for everyone for tuning in. Thanks for Endo for being a patron and supporting the channel. This stream was set up because of your game. I'm sorry we didn't get to play it, but I will schedule another one as soon as you know you've got that fixed. Probably in a few weeks, because I need to prioritize the games that have been submitted since I set this one up. And yeah, just keep an eye on the channel homepage, and I will put the next few streams up in the next couple of days. Thank you very much.